Tonight, dramatic images showing homes on the edge, seemingly on the verge of falling into the ocean, just south of Los Angeles. A recent landslide sending debris plunging at least 150 feet below, ripping away this home's backyard, leaving the patio poking out just feet away from the cliff.
Scientists are raising the alarm as California's coastline moves into a fast and dangerous collapse. Cliffs, roads, and homes are starting to crack and give out. Patios, pools, and even whole streets are already dropping into the ocean. Experts are giving urgent warnings as California's famous coastline faces a serious crisis that's getting worse by the day. A crisis filled with shock, non-stop pressure, and a growing feeling of uncertainty. Along streets that were once lined with palm trees and beachfront homes, familiar places are now being pulled under by endless waves. This isn't just a normal seasonal shift. This is a time of rapid destruction, with huge parts of California's well-known cliffs, roads, and neighborhoods vanishing faster than anyone expected. Right now, across the Southern California coast, patios have already crashed into the surf. A swimming pool sits dangerously close to a cliff edge, and once busy roads have collapsed or been shut down after deep cracks showed they were about to fall. Residents and emergency crews are feeling more fear as evacuation orders increase. Roads and escape routes can disappear overnight, and daily life near the coast keeps getting interrupted by the raw force of nature ripping the land apart. Scientists are studying fresh satellite images, and new results from NASA's latest research confirm that these famous cliffs aren't just slowly wearing away. They are also starting to bend, sink, and drop at speeds never seen before. The size of this danger and how urgent it is now impossible to ignore. For many people, no matter how many storms they've lived through, nobody remembers seeing California's coastline behave like this. Tall, powerful bluffs that once seemed impossible to break are now falling apart in days, sometimes even hours. And land that families trusted for generations is suddenly turning against the people living on top of it. Each high tide and winter storm brings new damage. The chain reaction is moving so fast that even experienced researchers struggle to describe it. Not long ago, walking along Ocean Boulevard was a simple pleasure. Now the road is blocked off, avoided, and feared as the cliff underneath keeps splitting open wider and wider. This is the front line where science, emotion, and real danger crash into each other. And one question hangs in the air. What pushed California's coast to the edge of collapse? The obvious signs, the broken patio, the cracked highway, are only the beginning. These are surface injuries caused by deeper, far more dangerous changes happening below. Every tide and every high surf warning is part of a bigger threat growing under our feet. As ocean waves carve into these cliffs, hidden forces underground begin to weaken the coastline's base. The land slowly drops as satellites confirm quiet, invisible sinking that continues even while the sea keeps chewing away at the surface. The destruction we see in daylight is only half the story. The other half happens underneath, as soil and ancient rock lose strength under non-stop pressure from rising sea levels, powerful Pacific storms, and damage that has been building up for decades. Scientists warn that every new round of damage creates risks that spread inland too, setting up more landslides, sudden collapses, and a future where both the land and our sense of safety are slowly being worn down. And with this constant danger growing, the biggest question becomes heavier than ever. Why is California's coast, once admired for its strength, now breaking down so quickly, so unpredictably, and so completely? What changed so much that cliffs shaped over thousands of years now fall into the ocean with almost no resistance? Ask the experts tracking the evidence, the ones recording every crack and break. They'll tell you the answer isn't just one storm or one bad tide. It's the dangerous mix of several forces hitting at the same time, a perfect storm of problems. Scientists have a name for it, a compound hazard event. As California's famous cliffs crash into the sea, the truth becomes clear. What's coming may be nothing less than a total transformation of the coastline. Subscribe now to stay ahead of breaking updates, deep investigations, and frontline science from California's changing coast. Don't wait until the next wave wipes out another familiar landmark. Subscribe for important coverage and life-saving information. The first shock usually hits fast. A patio cracks, then slides away. And in the quiet right after, the only sound left is the earth rumbling as it breaks apart. For people living on or near California's cliffs, this new normal feels unreal. But the damage is rarely as sudden as it looks. Beneath the cracked roads and battered homes, unseen forces have been working for years: erosion, sinking ground, and shifting rock layers. Each one slowly and steadily prepares the land for failure. As one coastal geologist said in a recent interview, people like to believe the land is still and solid, but the truth is California's cliffs and roads are living on borrowed time. Every wave and every winter rain strips away more support until gravity finally wins. The past few weeks have made these hidden forces painfully clear. On the Palos Verdes Peninsula, known for its stunning views, huge areas of cliff have slipped away while sensors and drones track wet sand and broken rock swirling down into the ocean. Up north, cliffs hit by record rain and non-stop waves are clearly shrinking back, confirmed by satellite flyovers. Fences, decks, and barriers that seemed safe just weeks ago now hang over empty space. This new reality may be clearest along Ocean Boulevard. Once known for beautiful views and relaxing drives, it is now closed with no end date. The surface is torn by spreading cracks, and the ground underneath has been eaten away. Engineers working in panic often have to stop because sections fall apart right in front of them, making repairs uncertain and leaving nearby homes in danger. For families forced to evacuate, sometimes coming back to find half their yard missing or their driveway destroyed, the message is clear. Just like time, land runs out faster than anyone thought. Behind every shocking collapse is a powerful mix of forces. California's cliffs, built over massive stretches of time and shaped by earthquakes, are now struggling against modern threats: rising seas, wave-driven erosion, and extreme wet and dry cycles. Erosion is no longer moving at the pace of centuries. Now it's measured in seasons, in meters lost each year. When the ocean tears away the base of a bluff, the top layers can only hold on for so long before gravity pulls them down too. So why are these collapses so sudden, so widespread, and so hard to stop? The answer isn't only in the storms we can see, but in invisible changes inside the land itself, quietly redrawing the line between the coast and chaos. While headlines focus on roads crumbling and homes sliding into the ocean, scientists warn of something even more dangerous happening slowly in the background. Geologists and satellite experts call it quiet subsidence, a slow, almost unnoticeable sinking of the ground that can over years turn a stable coastline into one that collapses quickly. NASA's latest satellite research has shattered the old belief that California's coast is strong and permanent. Each satellite pass shows the shoreline not as a fixed edge, but as a moving line, retreating and dropping at a speed that even longtime experts find shocking. Beneath modern buildings and natural cliffs, large stretches of coastline are sinking, sometimes only a few millimeters a year. But over time, that hidden drop makes every storm and tide far more dangerous. Cliffs already taking a beating from rising seas are especially at risk. Residents and local leaders are facing hard news. Neighborhoods once considered safe just 10 years ago are now being reclassified as danger zones. Their height is no longer enough to hold back waves that arrive higher and hit harder. Satellite images show areas that used to stay dry are now getting soaked more often as waves push farther inland each season. The danger grows even worse when sinking land and erosion work together. Every storm and high tide increases the chance of sudden structural collapse. Famous coastal roads built decades ago using old predictions are now in trouble as empty gaps open underneath. Engineers are racing to strengthen foundations before the ground below disappears. As one NASA geologist reviewing recent satellite data said, when the land drops, defenses built for yesterday's dangers often fail against today's. Roads, seawalls, even evacuation plans all must be redrawn as land and sea shift at the same time. Now those defenses are being attacked from both sides, the ocean pushing in and the land slowly pulling back. Every year, more ground once believed unmovable vanishes. As sinking increases, the idea of a safe distance becomes unclear. The line between dry land and crashing surf can jump by entire blocks in just one season. So what protection is left for families whose homes now sit not only within reach of the ocean, but on land that is quietly sinking beneath them? If you think this coverage matters, subscribe so you never miss an important update on California's growing coastal crisis. And share what you've seen in the comments to help keep your community aware and connected. Because for every neighborhood that wakes up to storm-battered windows, another gets no warning at all. Only the silent sag of the earth as it gives way along Southern California's coast. The last few weeks have revealed a harsh truth. Disaster speeds up when weak infrastructure meets nature's force. It often starts quietly, a road closure, a line of cones, flashing barriers. Then almost overnight, small cracks spread into massive splits. What once felt solid starts to hang over emptiness as engineers rush in for inspections. But many times the collapse moves faster than their response. Residents trapped by blocked roads are forced to leave not just because of storms, but because they fear their only escape route may soon vanish. The loss isn't only physical. It hits the mind and the heart. Emergency alerts tell storm-tired families to leave homes that have been lived in for generations. As cliffs crumble and patios fall, families leave behind more than property. They leave behind memories, routines, and the belief that nature can be controlled just a little longer. The damage spreads outward, putting pressure on systems meant to protect California's coast. Power outages follow as salty ocean air damages transformers and electrical parts built too close to the water. Communication breaks down. Fallen cell towers can leave entire neighborhoods cut off as danger approaches. In the chaos, some evacuation orders arrive too late, lost in failing networks. For field scientists, the work becomes more urgent and more difficult. Geologists monitoring cliffs in places like Pacifica say they aren't just trying to measure the changes, they're trying to keep up with them. Sometimes they're recording collapses in real time. And as more data comes in, the extremes are impossible to ignore. Cliffs retreating at record speed, waves breaking past flood lines set only a few years ago, and roads collapsing before anyone can even inspect them. The danger gets worse when hazards stack up. Heavy rain soaks the soil of already weakened cliffs, causing huge sections to slide with no warning. Then an unusually high tide arrives, and the ocean tears into what's left, leaving no time for recovery. Only the next loss. All along the coast, signs of collapse keep piling up. Street signs leaning at strange angles where the ground has shifted, and abandoned homes with holiday lights still hanging over empty decks. Behind the heartbreak, the data points to a cycle with no easy fix. California's coastal erosion is no longer one event you recover from. It's becoming a speeding feedback loop. Infrastructure built to handle once-in-100 years disasters is now being tested by storms that feel almost monthly. Roads once thought untouchable now sit at the very front of the damage. So what happens when the safety systems themselves, roads, communication lines, evacuation plans, start failing as quickly as the cliffs they were meant to protect? Who measures risk when the numbers change week by week? And what happens when maps that once felt permanent are constantly erased and redrawn by every tide? One of the most frightening parts of this crisis is how fast it's happening. Historians can point to slow cliff retreat as a natural part of California's shoreline. But now what used to be slow and gradual is turning into sudden, massive disasters. Recent events make this painfully clear. In several coastal neighborhoods, homes that stood for decades have vanished in just hours. The cliffs of Pacifica, closely watched for warning signs, collapsed so quickly after storms that even prepared residents had little time to react. In Palos Verdes, shallow cracks expanded overnight into deep gaps, pulling patios and fences down with them, shifting the edge of land by meters with each collapse. The causes are often hidden. As geologists explain, the final collapse is rarely just one moment by itself. Winter rains soak the ground, building pressure above fractured rock. Salt water pushes in from below. Constant waves weaken the base of the cliff. All of it stacks up until failure becomes unavoidable. And when one section falls, it can leave the next part unsupported, creating a chain reaction called retrogressive failure, which can trigger even more collapse. Roads built near these dangerous edges often close early, even while officials admit there is no long-term promise of safety. What worries both scientists and residents most is the shrinking time between warning signs and disaster. Maps that used to be updated once every decade now need constant changes. Even modern monitoring tools struggle because the land shifts faster than the equipment can track. So can time be bought? Can anything slow the loss before it takes more homes, streets, and pieces of California's history? For a state built on pushing limits, the answer is becoming harder to find. From the outside, it may look like California's emergency is just a rough winter or a string of bad storms. But coastal experts watching every meter lost, every cliff section slipping into the ocean, see something deeper. At the heart of this crisis is rising sea level, a slow but unstoppable climb that makes every wave and every storm more powerful. When this combines with sinking land in some areas, the impact doesn't just double, it multiplies, pushing damage far beyond earlier expectations. NASA's satellite images show the coast is not only being worn away, but also dropping downward. A double hit that lets the tide push farther inland. Storms have changed too. Recent winter systems hit with brutal force. Storm surges stack on top of high tides, and water from rain and rivers can't drain fast enough. In places like Pacifica and Palos Verdes, the result is clear. Land weakened from below by moisture and attacked from above by the sea. This is the real meaning of a compound hazard. As one expert explained, it's not just that the waves are higher or the tides are stronger. It's that everything that can cause collapse is happening at the same time. Soaked soil, a weakened base, sinking ground. Each one alone could break a cliff. Together, they reshape the coastline. Infrastructure built over generations is now being exposed as dangerously weak. Seawalls are being overtopped or undermined. Emergency rules based on old records feel outdated before they're even printed. As these defenses fail, the meaning of safety itself changes. Recent data makes it clear. In some areas, a single storm has erased 50 years of natural protection. In cliffside neighborhoods, land expected to last a lifetime has collapsed after only a few days of heavy surf. Stay with us as we keep tracking every shift and every lesson from California's transforming coastline. Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you're subscribed for our next report on research, survival, and adaptation strategies. As night falls on California's battered beaches, a hard truth becomes impossible to avoid. The ground where people built their dreams, homes, towns, entire ways of life, is no longer the safe place it once seemed. For every person returning to a changed yard and every official rewriting evacuation plans, the message is clear. The margin for error is gone. The timeline for adapting, once measured in decades, is now shrinking into urgent weeks. There is no after in the usual sense anymore. No easy break to rebuild and go back to normal. Many losses are permanent, and what remains may only stand for a short time until the next tide reshapes the land again. For those studying this coastal decline, the challenge is no longer just recording what fails. It's figuring out how people can live when the safe boundary keeps moving faster than anyone expected. Every satellite pass and every report of vanished roads is more than just another crisis. It's a turning point. But even with massive losses, communities are still fighting. Residents return not only to count damage, but to plan what comes next. Neighborhoods create new evacuation routes, push for smarter land use, and adjust to the reality that every winter may bring new danger. The lessons from collapsing cliffs and broken roads are terrifying. But they are not without hope. They demand awareness, respect for nature's changing power, and the willingness to adapt homes, communities, and dreams to a coastline that refuses to stand still. As California's edge pulls back, the biggest question now becomes, will we adapt in time or lose even more Not just land, but history and life itself? If you found this story important for California's future, hit subscribe for continued coverage and analysis, and join the conversation. Share what you've seen below. Tell us what your neighborhood is going through. And stay tuned as we explore the next steps and survival plans taking shape along California's changing coast.